Welcome to the Press Play and Run podcast, episode 8. We are the podcast for runners that don't know if they're runners, but who press play and run just in case. I used to say it was a podcast for normal runners and not for people in the weird vests at the front of the pack, until I became a weird person and started wearing vests and standing at the front of the pack. This week we have another brilliant conversation, but before I get to that I want to just catch you up on what's been going on since I last spoke to you. So in our last episode we had Pete Cooper on, the co-founder of Coupa Running and the Coupa digital run coach app. That was by far the biggest reaction we've had to any of the episodes so far, and I think it would be fair to say that as well as Pete being an outstanding guest and his story resonating with so many people, I think that common uniting factor there was just that almost universal experience people have of grieving, and sometimes how exercise has been a part of the process and sometimes part of their recovery. So many people have reached out, and I think somebody said that it was like becoming the podcast confessional in the DMs, and I didn't share everything because a lot of it was personal, but I really appreciate so many people reaching out and sharing their stories, and it's nice to see, I suppose, that human and vulnerable side to people that you see smashing these runs out every day and you sort of think they're invincible, and then people have opened up with and trusted us with some of that really sort of personal information. So I appreciate all the feedback to that, and especially to Pete for opening that vein of conversation. I know how much pride he takes in the sort of mental health aspect of running and the benefits of it, so I'm sure he's thrilled, and he reached out to me as well to say just how supportive the community has been. So we're hoping to get him up here to Scotland actually to come for a run, hopefully maybe with Newton Road runners or at a park run, where some of the people that listen to the episode can get the chance to meet Pete and hopefully run with him together, because that sense of community is a big thing in his running journey and in ours. For me personally, it's the end of week 6 of my Edinburgh Marathon training plan. It's been a really tough week, despite what the Insta stories and the Strava tells you of looking like runs have been smashed out all over the place. I was coming off the back of an illness and just really struggled with my runs. They felt so much more difficult than the data would suggest. The long run in particular, I'm struggling a wee bit with the long runs. I'm fine in company, but I'm finding that they're sort of living in my head rent free through the week as they approach the weekend. And at the end, it's just that bit of confidence shake that comes with probably actually with no matter what distance my long run's saying, I get there and I can never imagine running any further, and that can be quite daunting when sometimes it's like half the distance, it's a half marathon type distance that I'm running in a long run, and I'm thinking I need to do that again, and it doesn't feel like that's going to be a possibility. But I'm trusting the process and trusting the experience of the people around me that I will be ready by the time that run comes. So I changed it up a wee bit last week and did my long run midweek as part of my Thursday club run, and I actually really enjoyed my weekend because of it. I think because I got it out the way and it was a few days less of it living in my head. So I'm actually planning on doing that again this week, which is one of the benefits of that Coupa digital run coach app that I'm using, where you can juggle your runs about. You don't have to stay in the exact set structure of the week, and you can make it work around your life. So I'm doing the same again this week. I'm hoping to long run on Thursday, but that's also partly because an opportunity's come up through the podcast, and Lululemon have reached out and invited me to a runner's retreat in Scotland in West Lothian on Saturday. And there's a few familiar faces going there, a few podcast former guests, so I'm really looking forward to meeting up with everybody in person, seeing some familiar faces and meeting a couple of them for the first time, and to feeding back to you, the listener, on how that experience was. This is one of these sort of side benefits of starting the podcast that started to crop up, and I'm being selective about what we take part in to make sure it's sort of aligned with what I want to be doing, but also what I'm hoping this podcast can become. But I know Lululemon, as you would have heard on the Emancipated Run Crew episode, are very in tune with trying to promote diversity in running, with trying to promote that equality and equity side of running, which we are as well. So it's a great opportunity. I'm really looking forward to it. There's a guided trail run as part of it, and I'll feed back to you more on that after we've been there. This weekend, as well as my long runs, I was back at Strathclyde Park Run back at my favourite park run with Alison, our episode 1 guest, and she got a lovely shout out for her 6-star finisher medal before park run started, which was really, really nice. And I also met up with Emily, who is Emily in the Outdoors on Instagram. So that's the first time I've met Emily in person. She's just as lovely in person as she is online, and I want to just wish her all the best in her Brighton Marathon this weekend coming. There was definitely something in the water at Strathclyde Park, as well as the usual great atmosphere. So many people I knew were running PBs and had really, really strong runs, and I think I must have got caught up in the spirit. I managed to knock 4 seconds off my own park run PB, which I was absolutely delighted with at this stage of my marathon plan on pretty tired legs. And I think that's testament to my plan on the Coupa app. I know a number of you have reached out about using the Coupa app, and I shared on the podcast page that we have a code for it. I'm in no way remunerated for this, but if you use code PRESSPLAY on the Coupa coaching app, you will get an extended 1 month free trial, and I'm delighted to promote it just as a thank you to Pete for coming on to the show. I want to give one non-park run related shout out to a runner, one of our listeners, and you will have heard me mentioning her before, as she is a writer for the Herald that included us in the top outdoor podcasts in Scotland article in the Herald a few weeks ago. That's Susan Swarbrick-Dimmock, and Susan, I don't want to give too much of her story away because I'm really hopeful of getting Susan onto the podcast, but her running journey is a really interesting one. She's returned after quite a long period away from running, and watching her progress over the last few weeks has been absolutely brilliant, and I think she actually managed to PB in just about every single run that she did last week across a range of distances. It's a really exciting stage of running, that whether you're just beginning or if you're returning to it when you're over the hardest of yards, those first few weeks when you're struggling to get a breath and you just can't seem to catch a grip of pacing, or you can't get into any kind of rhythm, and then you get through that bit and the PBs really start to tumble. So I'm expecting to see a lot more from Susan in the weeks to come of these PBs continuing to go, but congratulations to you, Susan, and just keep up the good work. Away from the running for a minute and onto the Instagram, I also want to give a mention to the Point99 podcast boys, to the two Steves, not only for the shout out in their podcast last week, but I'm looking forward to coming on to their podcast. I'm going to join them. We're going to do a bit of a crossover episode, as Steve had mentioned, and talk all things Edinburgh Marathon. As much as I'm looking forward to talking to the two Steves about the Edinburgh Marathon and all things running, I think I'm more interested in talking to Mr. Steve Runs about this real performance that he's putting in at the moment on the Run Karaoke. Anyone who's had the privilege of seeing some of these will have seen from the sublime to the ridiculousness in the last 2 weeks. Steve has absolutely embraced this Run Karaoke trend started by Kaylee, the Happy Diet, on Instagram, and a couple of his reels over the last couple of weeks have really had me. The first one had me actually tapping my feet along to the rhythm of what he was doing, and the second one had me borderline recoiling in horror. I didn't know if I'd turned on to the 10-minute free view as he donned a monkey mask and it was engaged in a bit of hip thrusting. I think I made the comment on Instagram that it reminded me of like a 1996 advert for Eurotrash. I would really love to get involved in this trend of joining in with the Run Karaoke, but two things let me down. One, my singing, which is absolutely not for public consumption, but even more so is my skills on reels. I'm absolutely brutally bad at it, so I need a crash course before I can join in. I wouldn't even know how to do it. I don't know if they're miming and syncing it up later or if they're playing it through a phone. I really don't know. I feel like a dinosaur even thinking about it, so I do what I do best when I'm under pressure, and I just bury my head in the sand and ignore it. It was also interesting to hear the Point99 podcast boys speaking about the direction of their podcast. We only started a couple of weeks apart on this podcasting journey, and it's not something I've paused too long to reflect on myself. I know that I have a number of guests lined up and another handful of guests that I really want to speak to before I consider anything like a break in between season 1 and if there is a sort of season 2 type aspect to this. I'm just not sure yet. I also want to make a point of going back to catch up with Alison again post-Tokyo, post-London, just as a bit of a marathon recap, maybe even to touch base with Jenna about the Rome Marathon as well, although I do have somebody coming on that was also running in Rome. There's just so much going on just now, so many stories out there, and I really do appreciate everybody who's reached out with suggestions of guests. I'm certainly still enjoying the process of doing it, and I think we just keep rolling for as long as everybody's enjoying it, the listeners are enjoying it, and we've got things to talk about. So without any more rambling from me, I'm going to hand over to my conversation for today, where I am joined by two fantastic guests, one of whom I've known in person since I joined Newton Roadrunners, and the other that I've followed on Instagram for quite a while now, and whose content I absolutely adore. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand you over to my conversation with Annie Scott and Joanna Wallace. This morning, I'm joined by two fabulous ladies from the local running community. First, I have one half of the Running Girls on Instagram, Annie Scott. Annie and Lauren, the other half of the Running Girls, have brought smiles to thousands of Instagrammers with their positivity and determination to share their running journey and raise a shed load of cash for charity along the way. I'm also joined by a club mate of mine from Newton Roadrunners. In addition to being a fantastic runner herself, Joanna Wallace spends her days running her own personal training business. Absofit works with a range of clients, but Joanna specialises in supporting female clients through pre and post-natal exercise and helping educate women on how and why exercise can support them through perimenopause and menopause. Welcome to Press, Play and Run, Annie and Joanna.
Thank you, Ryan, for having us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Delighted to have you both here, and for obvious reasons as we get into the episode you'll see why it makes sense for me to have you both on together. I can barely read the introduction without tripping over half these words, let alone speak about them with any knowledge. So this is not about me pretending to be an expert, this podcast. It's very much about speaking to people that know what they're doing. So I'm glad to have you both here. You've both had very different running journeys. I know a wee bit about yours, Joanna, through the club now over the last few weeks. But Annie, can I start with you? Can you just tell me where the running journey started? Why? What the catalyst for it was?
Yeah, definitely. So my running journey started back in 2016, and I had just recently been diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And if I'm completely honest, I was just feeling a bit broken, and I just felt like my body had given up on me. So I had something to prove. And so I thought, I could raise a bit of money for charity and do some running at the same time. I think that I would get a lot out of that and also be able to give back to the charity that had helped me so much throughout my diagnosis. So that's where my best pal Lauren came into it, and we met up at our favourite bar one night, and we were like, you know what, we could probably do a bit of a charity run. And then as the Prosecco was flowing, that grew arms and legs. And by the end of the night, we'd planned to do 12 races in 12 months to raise money for Crohn's and Colitis UK and also SAMH and cancer research. So that's where it started. And then for the whole of 2017, we ran races every month to raise money and awareness for those charities. And yeah, that's where it started. So it was we just sort of went right into it. We went from not running at all to running a race every single month that year. And it was an incredible journey, to be honest.
We're actually developing quite a rich tradition already. 8 episodes in, and almost every running journey somewhere has had a springboard from people being drunk and making a bad decision about what they're going to do next. So whether it's running across the world or going from I wonder if I could run to 12 races, alcohol, it's not always great for you, but sometimes it leads to good things, as we're showing here.
Creative.
Joanna, what about you? I know running has run in your family through our conversations, but can you maybe take us back to the start of your own running journey as well?
Yeah, so I grew up in quite a running oriented family. My dad was a big runner, my brothers were big runners, even my mum all run. I just thought they were all a bit mad, to be fair. And I always did sport and things at school, but then like most people went to uni, had a bit of fun, didn't really spend too much time thinking about it. And then in my mid-20s, thought I'd take a wee bash at the women's 10K. I think that was around 2008, I think, the women's 10K. Sort of got the bug from that, joined Houston Roadrunners because I was living around there. Great club to start with, very supportive, big wide range of runners. Did that for a few years and then just gradually got kind of more and more into it. And then when I moved over towards this way, I went along to Newton Roadrunners on the very first night that it started. And there was just a few of us running about the streets in Cambuslang. And it's just grown from there. And now I think my family are completely in shock that I'm the one that's doing a lot of the running. So but I've always got their voice in my head, typical big brothers. Like I do a race and they think, oh, you could have done that, you could have done better. So yeah, typical bit of sibling rivalry going on. I think definitely helps spur me on.
I think we'll probably get to your competitiveness as we move through this. It's famous with me already. I've only been at the club for about 2 months, but anybody who's not listened to previous episodes, in episode 2 we had Jenna on, who was the founder of Newton Road Runners. So I didn't realise, Joanna, that you were there from the very first night, one of the OGs at Newton Road Runners.
Yeah, I went on the first night and I remember being absolutely terrified. Everybody thinks like, oh, these big runners, what are they going to do? All runners at all levels get terrified going along to a club, no matter what's going on. And it was brand new, so I didn't know Jennifer at that point. Didn't know what I was letting myself in for. But yeah, went along on the very first night, and within a few months, I was offering to help out and be involved, and went on to be a coach of it now. So it's that's what 6 years or so the club's been running, and it's just grown arms and legs. So I'm really proud to be part of it and be part of it from the beginning.
No, I can vouch for that feeling about not feeling like you belong at a running club. I think until you do go along, you'll never feel like you do believe until you take the plunge and make that step. Annie, you made that decision then after a few Prosecco's about these 12 months. What was the catalyst for using Instagram as the platform? Because you've got quite a significant following there. I know you said you feel like half of Newton Road Runners follow you as well, so that's obviously
I think I just follow them.
Or maybe it's both. Maybe it's a bit of both. By the end of this, hopefully it'll be all of them. But can you tell me about using that platform as well?
Yeah, so there was a couple of reasons for it. The main one was to keep Laura and I accountable for what we were doing. We found it really handy that people were sharing their tips, like what were they wearing, what routes were they running. So we got a lot of help from there as well, which was really useful. And secondly, Lauren and I, our jobs at the time, we weren't always able to be together. So that Instagram sort of pulled us together as well, so that we could check in on each other, make sure we were doing okay when we were traveling about and working, not from our home office.
And I know that Lauren, has she moved recently, which has made running together, so that's less frequent. You can see that in the profile now. So do you still find the time to run together?
Yes, we do. It's just more of an effort now because Lauren decided to leave me. But yeah, so we do have to make, like I say, a bit more of an effort. She comes round to my house. So we're trying to do once a week at the moment. But also Lauren is getting married this year as well. So there's a lot going on in her life. And she asked me to be her bridesmaid. So there's a lot going on. So running is maybe taking a bit more of a backseat for Lauren at the moment. But as soon as she's back from that honeymoon, I'll be dragging her out on runs again. Yeah,
I think that's another thing that we're hearing more and more of. It's life sometimes happens and you're running a ebb and flow around the other things going on in your life. So Joanna, what was the transition point for you between your own running then and getting the bug, the women's 10K, and leading on to, I want to sort of fast forward to 2016 when Absofit's born. Like, what's the catalyst there for moving from your love of exercise to actually this is going to become your life?
Yeah, I don't think there was one point in particular. The more I did running, the more I enjoyed it. And like anything, you come in and out at different stages of your life. And I had, and then I've got 2 children. So when I had them, I was still, running, still doing as much as I could, going to the gym, doing what I could. And then my husband worked offshore quite a lot. And certainly a personal trainer is something I've always thought, if I could do anything, that's what I'd want to do. Everybody's got these little fancies of what they want to do. But I remember actually saying to somebody, I must have been early 30s by then. Who would want a personal trainer at my age? Surely you want them all to be like 20, 21. And it was my sister-in-law who's the same age as me, and she looked at me and she was like, I would much rather have somebody your age train me who's had babies and been through that than not. You see all these young gym goers, you think, oh, they're not going to want to come to me. But then I sort of stopped and thought, well, surely you get more benefit of somebody who's going through the same things as you in life. So when I had my youngest son, my second son, he's now 7, he's nearly 8, and my husband was offshore and I had the 2 kids, and I was thinking, how am I going to get to work? I was working in the West End at the time, starting at 8:30 in the morning. I was like, how am I going to do this when he's away and the 2 kids? And I was in a fortunate position that I took a year off from having my son, and then I thought, why not just go for it? Why not just get your group personal training? That's just, we can only coach in groups, like teach classes. Just give that a shot and see how it goes. So I was able to do that when he was pretty small. Did that for years. That was sort of stepping my foot in the water, just seeing how it went. loved it. A year later, did my personal training qualification, and I've just built my own business from that. Again, I think being older in life, I didn't really want to go and work for somebody else and go and work in the gym. I wanted to do something that could work around my family. I take the kids to school every day. I pick them up every day, so I work around about them. And I'm lucky enough that I've grown my business. Lots of local people. I've got lots of support. I've got a great core group of people that come into my classes, come into my personal training, and a lot of them come because I think who I am and what I've been through in life. They don't want the 20-year-old trainers that I thought, when I was younger, everybody would want. They want somebody with a bit of life experience who've had babies, who are running, who are doing all these things. And I think a lot of my clients see me and see them in me, and can resonate with that. So I'm just very lucky. It's grown from a hobby and a dream, and I've just made it into reality. And it's just being able to work it around my kids has obviously helped family life a lot as well.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything more terrifying than having a 21-year-old PT. Imagine them trying.
I know that now.
Like, okay, just do this. I think you winded me up. It took me 25 minutes to get out of bed this morning.
Yeah, but at the time, before I started it, I didn't think people would want an old lady as a PT.
You've touched on maybe something that's brought the three of us together for this episode, and that having kids brings immediate challenges, not even to running, just running, but life, work. How am I going to juggle a job that you did before with childcare and all of that? And that led on to obviously a really positive change. Now, Annie, you're in a position where you're recently had a wee girl as well. Is that right?
Yep, little Violet.
So I don't need to tell you the challenges of trying to juggle fitness, work, and how's that transition been for you, going from your running journey before, and we will speak about some of the challenges maybe beforehand, to chucking a baby into the mix?
Like, so many people warned me and said it will be so much harder. And I think, you had that first baby glow. You're like, no, I'm fine. Nothing's going to change. And then it's like, boom. And it was just such a shock to the system, such a change that it totally caught me off guard, to be honest. I think just things that I hadn't thought about, just like, how do you find the time to get out of the house, and what am I going to wear, and my body's changed shape. Oh, this is a bit harder now. And then to add into all of that, you get all the mum guilt on top of it as well. So there was just so many things that didn't register with me when I was pregnant. I didn't think, this is going to be harder. And a few people sort of said, oh, it'll be tricky to, train for a marathon or train for a half marathon once you have a baby. And I was like, oh yeah, but I've seen people do it, so it'll be fine. We'll get through it. But now I realize the effort and the work that all those men and women were putting into to actually be able to run these races when they have a child as well. So yeah, it was a big eye opener for me.
Joanna, is any of this sounding familiar from people you speak to in the daily?
Oh, 100%. And myself as well, and I think you were touched earlier on Instagram and how good that can be, but the things like social media can also be a bad thing in that case, because look at that person, she's gone out and done that, and she's only 6 weeks postpartum, she's done this and that. But everybody's journey is so different, as I was saying, like, oh, I think it'll be fine. Everybody thinks it'll be fine until they have a baby, and it just takes over every aspect of your life, physically, mentally, emotionally. And people need to, and you can't tell somebody that until they have the baby, until they're in that position. And you need to realize that your journey is unique to you, and try not to compare yourself to others that are going through similar things.
Yeah. And I had Pete Cooper on in my last episode, who's just become a dad. And he was telling me, and I think I'd probably forgotten, Joanna, my kids are roughly the same ages as your children as well. I think I'd forgotten just how challenging it is trying to fit running in and around childcare anyway. But then you've got no frame of reference. I have no frame of reference for the physical aspect of the changes that obviously take place and those challenges it brings, because it's hard enough, actually. Annie, you talk about that mum guilt. Anytime you're out running for any length of time, especially this marathon block, you feel like you're stealing time. Sometimes if you're in a busy work life, trying to squeeze a 2.5 hour run in to the day and not feel like you're robbing time when maybe your partner's been working all week as well, it's very, very difficult. But that physical bit, I've got nothing but respect, I suppose, for anybody that's coming over that. Joanna, can I ask you then, when people are coming to you either prenatal or postpartum, what are some of those bigger physical challenges that people are facing? What are the questions that you get, or what's the fears that people are coming to you with?
Well, the body changes massively. I'll touch on prenatal first of all. I mean, somebody's pregnant and they're used to being active, they're used to being physical, and they think they can just continue. And some people can. You get people running marathons when they're 30 weeks pregnant, and you get people doing all this, and that's great and that's fine. But not everybody can do that. I ran through both my pregnancies, but only until about halfway through, and I wasn't doing the job I was now, so I didn't know what I was doing. I just got a bit too uncomfortable, and I still went to the gym and things like that. Didn't have the knowledge I do now, so now I think about some of the things I was doing, and I was thinking that's probably not a good idea. But yeah, your body's changing, your centre of gravity is changing. You have a human inside you who is going to be your priority. There's things you have to think about, just the way you move your body. Anyone who's pregnant will know when you're very pregnant and you suddenly try and open a door and you're like, oh, there's a bump there, I need to move back a little bit. You've got dumbbells in your hand, you need to be a bit more aware of that. However, strength training and whether that's running or strength training in the gym can massively help your pregnancy as well. Labour is a workout. It's a blooming hard workout. So if you can go in the fittest, the strongest you can, then the better. I tell anyone who's going to go through, whether it's birth or whether it's a surgery of some sort, if you can get yourself in the best physical position you can before you go through that, your recovery is going to be a lot easier. Now, again, that's generalization because everybody's different. Some people are not able to do exercise, and that is fine. But if you want to and you're unsure what to do, then seek guidance. That's what, prenatal, personal trainers things are for. And there's so much online information like that as well that can help you guide to do these things. But I would definitely recommend trying to do it if you can. And just do it as long as you feel comfortable. See, when you get to the point you're like, I'm not enjoying this anymore, then don't do it. You can still walk, you can still keep active. Postnatally, it can be a whole different ballgame as well. Again, you have this whole let's bounce back, let's be in the gym a few weeks postnatal. First of all, you're knackered, so you're so tired. That has to be a consideration. Focus on sleeping when you can. Eating well is a massive thing as well to recovery, especially tired mums. You just want to snack and eat and sugar, and I've been there. But the better you can eat and fuel your body, focus on those sort of things. And then when you want to try the physical side, there's an awful lot you need to think about. You get a GP check-up at 6 weeks. But a lot of people think, right, I'll get that and I'll be fine. It's a small check-up to say, are you okay? It's not to the extent of what it should be. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone who, after they have a baby, whether they want to exercise or not, is make an appointment with a women's health physio. They are worth their weight in gold. They will examine you internally, externally, check how everything is, give you the correct guidance of what exercises you can do. Because once you've had a baby, you can suffer from musculoskeletal pain, you can have urinary incontinence, you can have abdominal separation, you can have pelvic organ prolapses. All these things sound really scary, but they've just got scary names. They don't need to be. If you get some advice from a professional who can help you with these things, then you can get back to exercise safely and effectively.
I'm so glad that people won't see my face. I'm doing a great job of not looking horrified here. I'm doing my absolute level best.
People do get these words, but I guarantee every male runner, coach, anything, I guarantee you will be running beside somebody who has had these issues. You will be coaching somebody who has had these issues. You will be married to somebody who has had these. It needs to become more of a conversation in running and strength.
And I'm not even convinced it's just like male runners that would recoil at that. I think lots of female runners that are in their first pregnancy would be the same. Like, why would you know about these issues until they're something that might play a part in your life? Funnily enough, they don't sell this as part of the pregnancy journey. Come and get this stuff.
No,
it's
there's
great.
Lots of things you don't know until after. Nobody ever have children.
True. Including having actually children at the end who are hungry every 4 minutes. So yeah, you can't fix that for me though. Annie, how far into your pregnancy did you manage to keep running?
So I had a personal trainer until I was about 20 weeks pregnant, and then I continued running for another 10 weeks after that. So I ran up until I was 30 weeks, and I was so chuffed with that. But the distance got smaller and the pace got a lot slower.
But I think that's okay. That's what you need to realise as well, that people think, I've been running 10k and say 50 minutes, and all of a sudden, I can't do that. That's okay. It's you're running for two people. So you have to adjust your goals and just let go of what you were before and be like, I'm getting out a run, even if it's for 20 minutes and it's a run walk, then that's still amazing.
Exactly. And it was one day I went out for a run And I think I got 2K in. And usually when I'm running, it's my mind will give in before my legs. Like it'll be my mind that's like, oh, Annie, you can't do this. But I went for a run one day and my legs were like, Annie, why? Why are we still running? And I stopped. I was just outside a coffee and donut shop, and I was like, right, this is the end of my pregnancy running journey. We're going to go get coffee and donuts, and we're going to go down the walking route from now on.
It's nice to have your legs having a chance to be right for a change.
Yeah.
Because we all have the mental bit telling us we can't run. And what about afterwards? When did you get back to running? How soon?
Afterwards, so I think I went into it too quickly. I'll be completely honest with you. I just felt that pressure that, we've spoke about there, just that bounce back, she should be looking skinny by now, she shouldn't have her bump anymore. All these things you learn are completely not true looking back. But at the time, I was very consumed by that, and I felt like I should be running already. I could see other people on Instagram running really quickly after they're having their birth as well. So I had an emergency C-section, which obviously wasn't planned. So I waited the full amount of time to sort of check that that was okay. Got that checked at the 6-week check, and then I started couch to 5K. I think it must have been around 9 weeks.
Oh,
I know.
Joanna's covering her eyes.
Yeah. And I shouldn't have done it, but I was feeling, I recovered physically quite quickly, but I was not recovering mentally very well at all. And I think for me, I felt like I needed that run to clear my head, because I just wasn't sure where I was at. And, motherhood, it does change so many things. And I think I was very overwhelmed at what was happening. And I think mentally I needed that first run, but I don't think I should have started that early. And my advice to women would be just wait, don't put that pressure on yourself. Keep doing your walking, keep doing that sort of thing, but wait a little while longer before you sort of go into a training plan and try and put pressure on yourself.
You're both giving the same advice, just from a very different perspective. One from a lived, and albeit, Joanna, you've been there as well. I mean, you've lived that previously and before you were a trainer, but Instagram's a dangerous place for that. It's the most supportive running community. It really is. I've met so many nice people. Everybody's at your back, but there can be that group think of, well, look what everybody's doing. You only see the wins. Every Monday you open up that app and it's full of wins. It's either PBs or it's medals or it's people getting back to it and bouncing back. You do get some people sharing the honesty posts, but there's one of them for every 100 that's punching there and celebrating. So there is a danger that we normalise that as the way, and you need to use that app for the positives you can take from it, but not be driven by it for certain. Joanna, do you want to come in?
yeah, I was just going to say what Annie was saying. Like, she felt the pressure mentally. She kind of wanted to try that run. I think it's also important to support new mums when they want to go back out. The general guidance is not to start running until you're around 12 weeks postnatal. Again, this is completely variable person to person. Some people might not want to run for 6 months, 9 months. Some people want to go out much sooner than that, especially after having a section, because your scar might look and feel okay. It's gone through lots and lots of layers, not just the surface layer, so it does take a lot of recovery. But if somebody, for example, was in the running club and they were 6 weeks postpartum and said, I really want to come to the running club, I wouldn't turn around and say, no, you can. I say, well, why don't you come on a night that we're doing a session in the park and you can bring the buggy, you can walk around. Some people just want that. They want to still feel part of something they've been before. And sometimes that's really what they want more than the physical aspects of running. So I would never turn somebody away if they wanted to come to one of my classes or come to the running club because they were, in my eyes, medically too early. Because if that's what they need in that supportive environment, then that can be sometimes more important.
Yeah, becoming a parent can be incredibly isolating. Actually, your world can go from being quite big to very small very, very quickly. That's something Nicola and I have spoken about frequently, and that's not from a running side of things. It's just all the things you used to do take a back seat, and suddenly your world is that small. So I think you can be rushed out, Joanna, into these things of, I want to be back doing X, Y, or Z. Maybe you're not ready for it physically, but that mental side in dealing with it, I understand how people get there. And Annie, you're thrown into the mix then ulcerative colitis, which I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert on either. Nicola's a nurse, so I've already asked her and I Googled to check, but I'm read up on it a little. Can you tell us what it is and how that's impacted your running?
Yeah, so ulcerative colitis is a form of inflammatory bowel disease. And essentially, my immune system just fights itself. It can't tell what's good bacteria, what's bad bacteria. It just is constantly having a battle, which results in lots of blisters and tears within my colon. So I take medication every day. At the moment, I'm taking 5 tablets a day just to keep that at bay. But I also find that physical activity and obviously looking after my diet do help sort of maintain that balance as well. Before pregnancy, I'd had quite a few flare-ups. So my flare-ups tend to happen maybe like once a year, maybe less than that. And usually that's treated with a 8-week course of steroids, which is horrific. And I would never wish that upon anybody. What was amazing was when I fell pregnant, I went into remission. And I didn't need to take any medication for 8 months of my pregnancy. And I am so thankful for that. And I think that that's maybe why I had such an incredible pregnancy, because I didn't have any of those ulcerative colitis symptoms. So it was just, I felt like a new person. Unfortunately, the symptoms did start coming back towards the end of my pregnancy, which was fine. It was just lovely to have an 8-month break, to be honest. And then since pregnancy, again, we've been okay until recently. I have went into my first flare-up since having Violet, and we're just monitoring it at the moment. I've been going back and forwards to the hospital to get certain tests done sort of on my bloods. But yeah, at the moment we're doing okay. But as you can imagine, that does impact your running. I tend to use running to help me manage my symptoms. So sometimes if I have a hard run, you know, if I'm feeling bloated or if I feel a pain down my left side, it can sometimes send a trigger to me that, oh, something's not right here. Maybe I am a way to go into a flare, so I can tweak my medication or I can check my diet or rest up and just see what my body needs, which I find really useful. And also, again, from a mental perspective, it just helps me clear my head and realize that my body isn't as broken as I maybe think it is, and carry on. So yeah, it's definitely difficult. The worst thing is probably the fatigue. Like, you get really bad fatigue having any sort of autoimmune disease. So yeah, adding running into the mix can sometimes be quite difficult.
I've seen from your profile and from the comments on it how much people appreciate you sharing quite openly that journey as well. And there's another side of where I would really say Instagram can be real positive. For anybody going through that, you're not alone. There are other people there, but people really do appreciate you speaking honestly. So I've got a bit of admiration for that, because I think it would be easy to say, I don't want to. It's not particularly pleasant, I'd imagine, having to face it up, and certainly not publicly when you're feeling fatigued and you're a new mum. You could be knackered for any one of 15 reasons that day. But yeah. I think it's a great thing, and I do see what people are getting from it. So well done for not only raising the profile of the illness, but raising funds. How much did you raise in that 12-month period?
In that 12-month period, we raised, I think it was about £5,000 to £6,000.
That's amazing.
So it was a lot. And then over the last 5 years, we've continued fundraising for those causes. So I think we're almost at 13,000 now, which is just amazing.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And Joanna, you spoke about and not just specialising obviously in pregnancy. That is your niche, I suppose, but anybody going through an illness or going through any kind of surgery, just you reiterate that diet, that exercise, that focus on your well-being is so important.
There's so many factors in life you can't control if you do have like an illness or a surgery, whatever that may be. And obviously it's different for specific things, so I'm generalizing, but if you can treat your body and fuel it right with the right sort of foods, get the right sleep, get the right movement, you know, there are things that you can control in your life to help that. And we do live in a culture where, you know, the diet is not great in this country. And I think, you know, it's starting to see, people are starting to realize that actually what they eat can affect a lot, whether it, like you said, is going through an illness or surgery, or whether you're training for an event or doing those 12 races in a year, that sort of thing. There must be so many factors in those 12 races that you couldn't have controlled, Annie, that the weather, bugs, children, all sorts of things. But if you think, right, well, I'm just going to eat as well as I can and, hydrate as well as I can and sleep as well as I can and those things, then they're things that you can control and make you a stronger, fitter person, taking the exercise out of the equation completely.
And you had a little honesty post yourself the other day about feeling that fatigue. You're in the marathon block right now, and you had a post on Instagram yourself. This is not always related to illness or anything. It's just life sometimes getting in the way.
Me moaning. Yeah, because I'm so I'm doing London Marathon, and I'm at the peak of my training, so I'm tired. I'm tired all the time, and my post was just about, because it was my birthday last week, so we went out for dinner, we went out for drinks, we got a takeaway, and it was great. But I felt it that week. Didn't sleep well, just alcohol. You might make rash race decisions, but it also affects your race performance. When you drink, it does. You think, oh, I've only had a few, but you never sleep as well. And sleep is a massive, massive part of training, especially when you're training for something like a marathon. That's when your body is going to recover and repair itself. So definitely getting your sleep without the caffeine, without the alcohol, can help massively. And eating right as well. Like, yes, I love the meals out, but my training, I did the miles, but they were hard last week, certainly. I feel like all I do just now is moan how hungry I am and how tired I am, but apparently that's just part of marathon training.
And Annie, you're training for the marathon as well, aren't you?
Yep, so this all sounds very familiar. I feel like the past 3 weeks and even the next 2 that are coming up, I feel like running is just going to be my life. And I feel like I'm being really selfish right now, but I'm just having to put that sort of as far forward as I can and try and plan around my life and my work and my baby to try and fit all these things in.
It's London as well for you?
Yes, it's London. Finally, I've been waiting 3 years for this.
You have to make it your mission to get a picture together at the expo when you're picking your number up.
Yeah.
Promotional, that's the selfish promotional bit in me. I've been training with Joanna and a few of the runners at the club that are at your stage, and I'm a few weeks behind that for Edinburgh. But I'm at the same stage, Joanna, and I am weeks earlier. I think I probably am a bit ahead of my plan, but I stopped drinking at the start of the year altogether, which wasn't an off-the-cuff decision. I've been leading up to it for a while and wasn't drinking much, but just not enjoying the feeling afterwards anyway, and the impact it has on the running. So that has made a big difference, definitely, to recovery and to performance. But actually my eating has got worse during the marathon block, and it's because of the volume. I don't think I was anywhere near prepared enough for how much I would have to eat. So if you're not organised for that, you end up putting your hand on the wrong things because you don't have enough meals prepped, and you don't. So right before the marathon training started, I was in 3 meals and I was eating clean. I wasn't drinking, felt amazing. But now with the marathon, it's like if it moves, I'm eating it. So I need to calm that down.
I know it's hard. You need to, because if you think, for example, to maintain the weight and size and things I need to eat around 2,000 calories a day. If I go and do a long run, I could end up burning 2,000 calories. That means I need to eat 4,000 calories. And you think, oh, that's great, but it's hard. It is hard, especially because sometimes after a long run or a hard session, the body doesn't always feel like eating. Sometimes you feel a wee bit sick or you're not quite ready to eat. But you just need to be organised, get some recovery drinks. I have some kind of carb protein shakes I take after my run just to get something in quickly. But the good thing with marathon training is you can enjoy, food. And, I went out for dinner last night. It's Mother's Day, so I went out and had a nice meal and it was great. So you can enjoy these things because you're running so much, but you need to just make sure you're fueling right, because what you eat can make a massive impact on your training. You know that yourself. You wouldn't get up and have 3 rolls of sausage and then try and do your long run. That would not. Don't try that, Ryan.
Who wouldn't? Don't put words in my mouth.
Challenge
so that's
accepted.
Exactly.
You've just got to make sure you're eating the right things for your training to fuel your body. It's another thing in your life that you can control. Yeah,
but those extra calories, I don't find it difficult to eat the extra calories, but it's what you're putting in. It's easy to eat 2,000 calories if you just drive by a McDonald's. It's what you're putting in if you want it to help with recovery and make you feel okay the next day. Has to be better than that, and that's been the challenge. And how have you managed that, Annie, that challenge?
I found the eating side of things really difficult. Like, my eating is just a nightmare anyway, because I have ulcerative colitis. I have a few things that I can't eat, and people think that it might be like the sort of unhealthy things, but it's things like certain fruits, certain vegetables, certain fibers. So it is really difficult sometimes to find something that's nutritious that I can eat that isn't going to cause me havoc afterwards. But since becoming a mom as well, I mean, trying to fit in like cooking has just been crazy. So my main meals have usually been coffee and cake, because they're really quick to get into my system. But yeah, it's the eating I found that probably super difficult with the marathon training. Like you say, like your appetite just goes way up. You don't want to fill yourself with rubbish stuff after a run as well, because you feel like I've just done that run. Like my body is amazing. I don't want to fill it with donuts. But the eating side of things has always been a struggle for me, just knowing the right things to do, correct portion sizes, all of that. So I admit I am not very good at that side of things.
You just have to try and think, because the better you fuel your body, the better your training will be. So you might have a week where you think your runs are great, but say you've eaten lots of coffee and cake, but imagine how would it be if you ate the kind of healthier options and things instead. And it's just about fueling your body right and the recovery. Save all your all the things you want to eat, save them up for the afternoon of the 23rd April, and then it doesn't matter how you feel afterwards.
Yeah.
it's an organisation thing. It's tough enough anyway in the wash of a busy life, let alone having a baby in the mix. I know exactly. It's a convenience thing versus what you're organised for. Joanna, do you cover this kind of thing at your classes? Because I know you do still run sort of group classes, don't you, for new mums?
Yeah, I do group classes, and I do one-to-one and kind of small group personal training as well. So in the big classes, no, they just come and kind of do their workouts and leave. But if it's small group personal training or one-to-one personal training, then yes, I look at your nutrition. I am not you need to be a nutritionist to actually tell somebody what they can and can't eat. You need a certain degree in that. I don't have that. I don't pretend to have that, but I do have quite a bit of knowledge in what the body should eat. So I certainly look at I get them to kind of write down what they eat, just so I can get a reflection on it. And it's not you shouldn't be eating this, you shouldn't be eating that. It's, well, maybe you're lacking a little bit of this. Have you tried some of this? And tracking their water intake. And so I just do look at it generally and give them ideas, things like snacks, different high protein. Proteins are very important component to get into your body, especially women when you're going through different stages in life. You need that high protein. So a lot of people they don't have the knowledge. So I just try and give them some general information, general knowledge to help them on their way with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if you crack that bit, I think it helps you along with the running, definitely, because the volume's increasing, the physical demand's increasing. Certainly never having been a marathon runner before or anything like that distance, the volume on its own is enough to know that you're going to need to make changes to the recovery. And I could run 5k every day and it doesn't really impact my pre or my post run life. I have sore legs maybe if you really push an effort, but now even a long training run, slow, you feel the fatigue, you feel the hunger coming. So you do have to be organised. And another aspect of the organisation, Annie, I might be just about to get the two of us a row here, knowing Joanna, but is strength and conditioning. So I'll let you go first. Annie, how's your strength and conditioning as part of your training?
Good. I'm in the good bits on that side. Yeah.
Oh, loser.
I have found I've been going to these F45 classes, and I have been absolutely loving them. I think because it's just a little bit different from running, so it gives me just that little bit of variation. So I have been really enjoying them. To be fair though, I haven't been in a few weeks because I've just had a lot on. But I've just booked myself into a class tomorrow. Just booked into my class tomorrow. So
I am hating you right now for that answer. Hating you. Sorry. Right, Joanna, go. This is what I get. This is what I get on our Tuesday runs. We're running a Tuesday. Joanna just gives me grief about not doing strength and conditioning. Go for it.
That's why half the time I end up running alone. Nobody wants to talk to me. Strength training is a massive thing, not just for running, for life. Right? Think of all the functional movements you do in life and how important it is to be strong. Muscle mass decreases from when you're in your 30s, like a little bit of percentage every year. So you need to improve this by doing weights and doing strength training. If you think about when you're old, like when you're older, like when you need to stand up out of a chair, it's not running a marathon that's going to get you standing out of the chair. It's the muscles in your legs that are going to get you standing out of the chair. So if you can do strength training now to improve your muscle mass and make you stronger and be able to just function through life, then that's just an obvious general health benefit. When it comes to running, It's not exclusively going to stop you getting injured. You know, I do strength training and I get injured, but it is going to decrease your chances of injury. Delayed point of fatigue as well. If you think if you're running a race, say you're doing a 10K with somebody, and they do strength training and they don't, their muscles are going to be able to cope with that a little bit more than you are. But not just your legs as well, your upper body, your face, your upper body. You think, people think, right, I need to do my legs. That's great, especially single leg work because of all the imbalances that people can get. And you spend a lot of time when you're running on one leg. So therefore, you need to learn to do exercises on one leg. It might make those fast runs feel a little bit better because you have the strength in you to help with that.
I do know you're right. I really do. It's just so incredibly boring, but I do know you're
right.
right.
So why don't you like doing it? What is the reason?
Because I'd rather be running.
Even so, if I said to you, I've got this great speed session you could try, it's going to make you a better runner, I guarantee you would go and do it.
But have you seen people in gyms? They're so boring.
You go to the wrong gym then. You go to the wrong gym.
No, it's every gym I've ever been to.
A lot of people don't like. A lot of runners don't like strength training because it's taken away from the running. They feel they have to. And yes, to be a good runner, you have to run. That is obvious. You have to run. I'm not going to say, right, I want you to cut down 50% of your runs and go to the gym. No, but even if you could just fit in a little bit. So say you had to do a 6-mile run. Imagine you just did 4 miles and then did 20 minutes strength at the end.
No, the honest answer, I do get it. The honest answer, as much as I was being a wee bit honest anyway, but the honest answer is it's a lack of knowledge along with probably not having. So I've no running background before I joined like the club and things like that. All I was doing was running 5K on my own. So I wasn't talking to people about running or anything. So it's not something that I ever knew you should phase in. And then see, by the point I'm at this stage now where I really could benefit from doing it more frequently, I'm probably mentally in the place where I like to run 5 times a week minimum, sometimes 6. So unless I do it on the same day as a run, which I just never really get round to, I feel like I'm taking a run away. So it's probably a mental thing along with the lack of knowledge of, right, what to do. So the app that I'm using now has some strength and conditioning in it, and I am sticking to it. It's once a week and it's a full body sort of session. So that's the first I've ever done any regular stuff, but I know it should be more at the volume I'm running.
Yeah, people don't want to drop runs, and I totally get that, but you can strength train on the same day as a run.
Yeah.
Just be wise, don't go and do a massive heavy leg session, then go out and try and smash out a track speed session. That's not going to benefit you. But I would definitely try and do 2 strength sessions a week. Ideally, I would like runners to be doing heavy sessions. I'm talking squats, deadlifts, big compound exercises in the gym. If you're 4 weeks out of a marathon, don't suddenly think, I'm going to go and try and do some heavy squats. That's not a good idea. I'm talking, long term. But yeah, people they don't always want to go to the gym. They don't know what they're doing. If you can afford a personal trainer and, get somebody to give you some advice, then that's amazing. And if you don't want to do it with that, there's so many online things you can follow. You can do, there's like the app you're doing, there's so many ways that way. So you can go from the gym workouts, the home workouts, to even, I said it to you the other night when we were running, even you can do calf raises while you're brushing your teeth. You can squat while you're boiling the kettle. Little things. You're better doing small, even if you don't know if it's the right thing, you're better doing that than doing nothing.
I tried squatting when I was at the kettle, but I couldn't reach the kettle, so I'm not doing it again. That's my route over with. So I was I was taking it, I was making sure we got it in there because I knew that we were going to touch on it at some point. You're right, you're absolutely right. And Annie, you are a letdown. I should have asked you this before. I would never have asked the question. I thought we were going to take a row together and have a wee bond there.
I was going to say, I feel like between us, we're like a great marathon runner if we just combine the two of us together.
Well, between you and I.
Yeah, you've got the eating, I've got this sort of strength training. There we go. Joanna will be dead proud of us.
It's so hard to do it all because you're trying to run, you've got a family, you've got a job. Oh, I don't have time to go to the gym. And if something's got to give, you think it's going to be the gym. But as I said to you, right, if I said to you, right, you've got a great speed session you could do, you would find the time to go and do it.
Definitely.
So it is just about, it isn't possible to do it all. There's no way you can do it all every week. But little and something is better than nothing.
Yeah. And I always want to keep this as my hobby and never feel like it's becoming the defining part of your life. It's something I enjoy doing and I don't want it to be consuming everything. But you're right, if you get to that level, I do know all these things. So that's me. I'm going to be a changed man. Next time we speak, I'm going to have done three strength sessions this week.
You're going to be running up the hill with kettlebells in your back.
Exactly. And wait till you see my Instagram. I'll be like doing deadlifts and lifting the kids up, stuff like that. It'll be unbelievable.
Every time I go to the gym now, I'm just going to tag you.
Don't do that. I will block you. Stop it. And I'm sorry to anybody that goes to the gym. You're not all weird, but you are, and probably you as well. So let's move on now, because that's enough. That's enough rows. I want to speak about your running now. Joanna, I want to hear about Arlo Half Marathon, which I know you just did. And Annie, I'm going to start with you. Talk me through the Meadows Half Marathon.
Oh, no.
What a support crew you had with you. Go for it.
Meadows Half Marathon. Easy peeps. I don't know why I do it to myself, like, honestly. So it's the Meadows Marathon Festival. There's 4 different events. There's a 5K, 10K, half, and a marathon. And it is laps round the Meadows for that distance. So I decided to do the Meadows Half Marathon. That was 9 laps around the Meadows, which every lap included a steep incline. So I'm not gonna lie, it was horrific. Like, it was really difficult, but the main reason I did it was, so first of all, I hate laps. Like, when I go to park run and it's a course that's like more than 2 laps, I just zone out and I really don't enjoy it. So the thought of doing 9 laps, I was like, if I can mentally get round this course, I feel like that's really good mental strength training for the marathon, because I'm going to be probably running it on my own, apart from if I find a wee pal to run with when I'm there. That was why I signed up, was like, if I can get round this, then I can do anything. And to be honest, it's a really good race for, if you want somebody to come and cheer you on, because you're going around the same lap 9 times. So you'll always see your buddy cheering you on. There was some amazing cheer squads out there. The running group that I'm part of, although I've not been in a while, We Run Edinburgh, they had an amazing cheer squad there going up the hill, which was fantastic. I did hit a wall. I hit a wall at lap 6. I felt like, oh gosh, I've done 6 of these laps. I've still got another 3. I was just flagging and I was like, this is really difficult, but I had a wee word with myself. I dropped down to a walk as well. I had a little walk, was just like, okay, let's get my breath back, let's refocus. And then actually those last 3 laps were brilliant.
Knowing you're coming to a hill 9 times, the first couple is bad enough, but see, knowing that you're coming back to that same, even like Victoria Park and Glasgow Park Run is 3.5 loops, but I think you do the little hill and it's tiny, but 4 times you do it, and I dread it every single time I go.
It's like it's looming over you and you just know you can't relax because it's coming again. And you're like, I don't want to use up too much of my energy because I need to get up that hill again. And yeah, it was a really challenging race. But like I say, like at the end of it, I felt phenomenal. I felt really chuffed with myself. I went much quicker than I thought I was going to go as well. So overall, it was great. I would definitely do it again. Like, I'm a glutton for punishment.
Where are you at with your London training? What is the long run situation?
So I've got my longest run coming up this weekend, and I'm doing it as a race. So there's it's called 20 Along the Forth by Glasgow.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I nearly signed up for that, and then it was just too soon in my plan.
Yeah, so I think they've sort of tried to plan it in because they know there's a lot of spring marathons coming up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing that one. That'll be 20 miles. That'll probably be my longest run on my plan. But I am going to do another long run after that, just because I feel like I want to do 3 weeks of tapering rather than 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've got coming up this weekend. I'm actually really looking forward to it because it's right along the coast, and then you go over the Forth Road Bridge.
Yeah.
And when do you get the chance to run over the Forth Road Bridge? So I was like, that would be quite good fun. I'll probably be crying as I go over it, but at least it'll be an experience.
I think there's a couple of Newton Road runners going there, so look out for the vests.
There definitely will. There's always Newton Road.
Yeah, they get everywhere. Like rats. You're only ever 3 feet away from one at a race.
that was you said that. That was not me.
Well, no, I'll call them that. I feel comfortable enough with everything now to call them that. I mean that in the nicest possible way. So you're back. You're back just in time, because I want to ask you, Mrs. PB, Arlo a half. Tell us about that. That was some run.
Yeah, it was hard. It hurt a lot. Yeah, so London training has gone pretty well. And the Arlo half is 6 weeks before or something. So, and there's mixed advice. Some people say don't race it. It's all part of the training. Do different things. Maybe slow down at the start and then speed up. And I just thought, no, I just want to race it, see what happens, because you don't often get to do many races when you're at the kind of peak physical fitness that you'll be in marathon training. So, but it was tough because I'd already ran 30 miles that week, I think, as it was. But yeah, I got a PB, so I was pretty delighted. But it hurt a lot. I always think halves are quite good because you can slow down a little bit and enjoy the pace. No, it's just, for me, it didn't happen. But it was good. It was really pleasing. It was a good confidence boost coming up to the marathon. So, although at the end, of course, you're thinking, how am I ever going to run double that distance?
It was a great run you had. I was so impressed by the pace. Sorry, on you go, Annie.
I was going to say, I've done Aloha before. Is there not like a character building incline towards the end?
Yeah. There's a hill at mile 12. The mile 12 marker is at the top of that hill, but you kind of know what's coming, so everybody's sort of ready for it. What's worse is the small incline from mile 12 to the finish, because you think you get to the top, you'll get rewarded with a nice downhill. No, it just goes on, and then you have people walking past in their finishers t-shirts going, "Oh, it's just around the corner," and you want to shout lots of profanities at them because it's just horrible. But it's a good route and it's well organised. It's a good race. It's a busy race. So, yeah, it was good.
I can't remember whose profile it was. I wish I could. Running Wizard Man, maybe. I think his video of the Aloha half going up that hill, and he was really pushing. I think he ran a PB as well, and a fast PB. And he was running up the hill, and I thought I saw him staggering, genuinely, like people were out on their feet going up that hill. I think if you're pushing at that pace, and you were pushing really hard as well, Joanna, that's a tough way to finish a run.
Yeah, it's not. It's quite hard as well because it's coming. You've got it kind of to look forward to at mile 12.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the topic of races, I want to give a wee shout out to Dumbartonshire AAA on their 10-mile race yesterday, which I took part in. Wasn't feeling the best.
You got a PB?
Well, I had a PB because I'd never run the distance before as a race. So yes, we'll take the PB. Okay. We'll take the accolades. I was feeling really poorly over the weekend with a little sickness bug, but I wanted to go and race. I wanted out the house, actually. It's been like a war scene in here with everybody being sick, and so anything for some fresh air. And it was a brilliant event. I'm hoping it stays in the calendar. Nice route, very well organised, lots of familiar faces, fast. Another fast route. It reminded me, Joanna, of actually Canvas Lang's down by the river type, although it's all on tarmac rather than on trail path. So really, really good race. Brilliant from the organisers, and some cracking running yesterday. So well done to everybody that ran that as well. So next on the agenda for you both is, you've got that, obviously that run in the 4th coming up, but the Edinburgh Marathon, that's the big one for you. How are you feeling about it, Annie?
For London. I'm doing London Marathon.
What did I say?
Edinburgh.
Oh, sorry. Next up for you both.
Have I got another one?
No. Sorry. Next up for you both is London. Next up for you both is the London Marathon. So, Annie, how are you feeling about that one? Not Edinburgh.
I'm feeling excited. It's been a long time coming. Like, I was meant to run in 2020, and obviously it got cancelled. I decided to defer till 2023 because I did have in my head, I think I would like to start a family. So I thought I'll push it out as far as I can and then see how I'm feeling at that stage. So yeah, I'm excited. I did the virtual back in 2020, so I have ran the distance before, but I was, like you say, I was at my peak fitness back in 2020. So a lot has changed since then. My plan is to finish with a smile. That's my plan. There's no times in it for me. I just want to make sure I cross that finish line. My daughter's going to be there as well, so I'm super excited. And I think, I just need a bit of closure on it. Like, it's been looming over me for so long. I need to do this and get it done, and then I can focus on something else.
No, that's amazing, and I'm sure you'll have a great time. It's the victory lap, and it's nice to go in with that mindset of, you're not chasing this or that, you're just going to enjoy the experience. Joanna, how are you feeling about it this many weeks out?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it as well. Again, I was supposed to do it a couple of years ago. I got a good for age entry, and then I got injured, so and they wouldn't let you defer it. They don't let you defer an injury good for age. So I just sort of gave up because I said, I've only done one before, and I said, no, I'm never doing another one. That's it, it's fine. But then obviously I entered the London ballot, as everybody does, just for something to do, and miraculously got a place in the ballot. So I felt it was the world's way of saying, no, you're supposed to do London. So no, I'm excited now. I'm really looking forward to it. and I feel I'm in quite a good shape physically for it. But again, I want to enjoy it. This is my last one. I'm not doing another one. And if I do, it's going to be like I don't. It's too all consuming for me. It just takes up too much headspace, too much life, and I admire people that can do one more than one a year. And if I do another one, it'll be in like 10 years. My kids are older that I can do it. So I want to enjoy it. It's London. It's going to be experience. I want to, it'd be great to get a good time, but I really want to enjoy it as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
Joanna's just gone from never doing another one to if I do another one, it's going to be. That was in one sentence.
I was a way to say that.
Yeah. So we look forward to next year when we see her going for another world major.
No, I'll get divorced if I say I'm doing another one next year.
No, you don't say it. You just say, "Oh, I got a place in the ballot." You wouldn't believe it.
No, I'm done.
A rare beast finding a place in the ballot for London. Not many of those kicking about.
Especially because I had that good for age. I thought that would be my one chance to get it. So but quite a few people have got that in the ballot. I've seen a few of us. Yeah. So there's a good squad of us going down.
I've had 6 or 7 goes at it and never had one. And every year I go, oh, thank God. Thank God I didn't get one. One year I'm going to be unlucky and actually get the place. Right, ladies, okay, I really appreciate your time. You've given me far more than I think I asked you to give up to me. So I'm going to finish off with, as you know, a quick fire round. So this is where you need to be tuned in for quick answers off the top of your head, okay? Because we are going again with 3 of us, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question. Annie, I want you to answer first, and then Joanna, I'm going to get you to answer the same question right after. Good?
Yep.
Good to go. Right. Okay. Annie, favourite running shoe of all time?
Nike Flyknit Epic React. They
Joanna,
don't do them anymore though.
Why not?
Do you know they discontinued them? I'm gutted.
It's your fault. Joanna?
Brooks Ghost.
Favourite training route?
Oh, along the canal in Edinburgh.
Joanna?
Cathkin Braes. Good views. Lots of trails.
Hills, you're such a weirdo, honestly, see you in these hills. Annie, best running related book or podcast?
I don't know. So I don't really listen to like running related podcasts apart from this one, and then Run Panthera. But again, that's discontinued as well. So
we're going to get cancelled, Joanna, after this. This will be our last episode.
I know. I'm a bad omen.
Joanna, what about you?
So I'll Run Panthera because she's still got them there.
Okay, I'll
Run Panthera.
Yeah.
I like Jenny Faulkner's Runpod. Total range of guests on that. I like that one.
Yeah. Annie, proudest running moment?
Completing my virtual London Marathon.
So far. Joanna?
Completing Stirling Marathon. Another one I said that was the only one I was ever going to do.
Yeah, that's what you said the last time as well. Annie, worst race or running experience?
Probably my first half marathon. It was the Ochterarder half. I went off too fast because it was all downhill, but then at the bottom you just had to turn back round and run all the way back up, and I was not prepared for that. But I did go back the following year and do it. So I cried the first time round.
Was it on the way up the hill?
On the way up the hill.
Oh,
Lauren
no.
was like, Annie, you have to keep going. I was like, no, just give everybody all their money back. Tell them not to sponsor me. And she was like, we can't do that. You need to just keep running.
That's those moments when you have to run by somebody and pretend you didn't see them crying, so you don't have to stop.
That was me.
It's like, oh no, I didn't notice. Sorry, I didn't notice. Joanna, what's your worst running or race experience?
I think the first time my brother you think I like hills, he's even more mental. He made me run Tinto Hill Race, and I had no idea what I was letting myself in for. I've since gone back. I think I cried as well, and I've since gone back and done it a couple of times, and now I enjoy it. But the first time I fell and everything and scraped my new leg because I wore new leggings in the hill race. That's how naive I was. So that was not fun. But I've conquered the fear of it since.
It's a hard run. I broke my thumb on Hogmanay a couple of years ago on Tinto running back down. So running back down the hill, and I made it the whole way, and I was about maybe 50 feet from the car park, and I tripped over a rock just on the ground, and I fell and broke my thumb after running all the way up and down. And I felt like crying. I really did. People were watching, so I didn't cry. I was brave until I got in the car, and I was like, sad face. Annie, don't tell Joanna what we're having here, right? But best post-marathon refuel, meal and drink.
Oh my gosh, what am I going to have? I just want all the chocolate and I want champagne. Like, I'm going to go all out. I want champagne and chocolate.
That's quite lavish for after a marathon. Joanna, if you say a
I remember when
carrot, we're fighting.
yeah, just some broccoli and a chicken
No.
breast. That's it. No. I remember when I finished Stirling, I had a bottle of water, a Diet Coke, a cup of tea, and a glass of Prosecco. I didn't know what I wanted. So a plate with a tray with the four of them on, would be good. And just something like a huge pizza. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, pizza and
Just as
burgers.
hot.
You can't beat pizza and burgers. You really
Yeah.
can't. I mean, chocolate and champagne's pretty up there as well. Annie, one inspirational Insta profile you never skip by.
So I think it's called Pater Runs or Pate Runs. It's a girl called Ailsa, and she's just so inspirational. She's just had a baby as well. She's training for Boston, and her stories are hilarious for one. But she's just doing incredible, and I always check in on how she's getting on.
Brilliant. I'll link to that in the episode description, and Annie, I'll get you to send me that after the show, the pro, share it with me so I can make a note of it. Joanna?
I quite like Running Explained or The Planted Runner. They're both just got good little posts and tidbits on running things, including strength training, and just little hints and tips to help you. So they're always good posts on those two.
She's never off the clock. Send me those as well, please, Joanna, if you can share the profile with me. Run with or without music, Annie?
With, if I'm on my own.
In a race?
In a race, I'd probably have a podcast on.
Joanna?
A podcast on a race? Oh no. I'd get too embroiled in the story and lose focus in the race. I train with music, but I would not race with music.
Okay.
I like to be in the zone.
Annie, best piece of running advice you've been given or could give?
Probably just don't compare yourself to anybody else. Run your own race, do it for you, and just, don't focus on what other people are doing.
Sound advice. Joanna?
The quicker you run, the quicker it's over.
That's true. Also very painful over a marathon, though.
That's what I think when I'm running up Heavy's Hill.
No, when I'm running up that, I think I shouldn't have turned up this week. That's what I usually think. Annie, favourite park run?
Perth Park Run. I really enjoy that one.
Joanna?
I don't get to do park run very often because of work, but when I do, this is not going to surprise you, Ryan, Towcross.
Yes. Joanna's park run, favourite park run, is my nemesis of a park run. It's just basically a succession of hills. We ran it together. Didn't we? We ran it together at New Year, I think. Or Christmas.
Yeah. Ran it together. Ryan, you beat me though.
Well, listen, I wasn't racing. You were maybe racing. I wasn't racing. No, no.
I figure if you're going to run 5K, you may as well make it an effort and throw some hills in.
You were also first lady home, so let's just not try and compare achievements on that day. Okay, finish this sentence. I press play and run because
I want to prove to myself that my body can still do amazing things no matter what.
Joanna.
Because it's something for me. So much of life you give to other people, and running is just for me.
They're profound answers. I'm going to need to change these questions. People are coming up with good answers now. Okay, final call of the day then. We have a Press Play and Run playlist on Spotify, and each week I ask our guest or guests to add a song from their running rotation that they couldn't take out. So Annie, I am going to start with you. What are you chucking onto the most deranged playlist on Spotify?
I'm chucking in Sum 41 In Too Deep because it came on my run the other week and I couldn't stop laughing because I was like, I am in too deep right now.
It's a brilliant song. I mean, it's completely out of kilter with the rest of the playlist, but that's great. Joanna, what are we going for?
This is quite hard. I listen to so much random music when I'm running, completely vague depending on the mood. So I don't have a song that has special meaning or I remember listening to at the end of a race. But I've chosen this just because I think it's a really fun, uplifting song, and it's about running, and it's Lucy Spraggan, Run.
I don't know that one, so I am gonna.
I
do know who that is. She's the acoustic.
She's an X Factor person.
Yeah.
An X Factor, so it's not got much street credit, but I think she's great. She's got a very inspiring running story actually, and she just wrote a song about running. So I just think it's always, when it comes in playlist, I think it always gives me a wee skip to my step when I'm running.
Right, ladies, final things just to say thank you. This will be, I am sure, relatable to so many people for so many different reasons, this episode. I'm so glad I got you both on together, because you're able to sort of ask each other and fill in the blanks where I am clueless, which is in so many areas of life. So I wish you both all the very best in your next kind of 3-4 weeks ahead, but particularly when it comes to that London Marathon. Share your pictures. We'll share them on the podcast. And Joanna, I will see you obviously at some of the club runs. But Annie, very best of luck to you in the taper as well. And if you see any Newtoners at the run along the 4th, give them a wee wave and get a picture with them. Grab them for a picture. That's your job.
Okay, I will do.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
to
so
you
much,
both.
Ryan.
No, you're
I hope I'll see you in London, Annie.
Yes, fingers crossed. Good luck.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you to you, the listeners, for joining us for another episode of the Press Play and Run podcast. You can really help to support the podcast by subscribing or following on your podcast platform of choice and by leaving a review. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Press Play and Run Podcast, and to add the Press Play and Run playlist on Spotify. We'll be back every 2 weeks with new episodes, and please be sure to keep an eye on our Instagram page to find out which guests will be joining us. Until then, keep getting the trainers on, press play and run.